Mist clung to the canopy like a ghostly veil as dawn broke over the endless green of the Amazon. From the highest branches of a ceiba tree, the forest's breath drifted in slow spirals, carrying the earthy scent of wet soil and crushed leaves. A chorus of insects buzzed beneath the fading moon, their tiny wings beating a rhythm older than memory. This was the hour before the hunters stirred, a time when spirits wandered freely between worlds. Tapped, crouched on a mossy root, a blowpipe resting across his knees. At 17 seasons, he was lean and silent, his eyes sharpened by countless hours of tracking tapers through the labyrinth of vines. He breathed in the humid air, letting the forest speak to him. Every rustle, every distant cry told a story. Today, something felt different. The night's quiet had been uneasy, like a drumbeat waiting to begin. A sudden screech split the stillness. The harpy eagle, ruler of the sky. Its cry was deep and resonant, echoing through the canopy with an almost human urgency. Tahu's heart jolted. Among the Yanomami, the harpy was more than a bird. It was a messenger of Omama, the great creator. He tilted his head and caught sight of it, a vast shape against the pale dawn. The eagle circled 3 times above the western horizon, its massive wings slicing the mist, then vanished into the trees. 3 circles. Tahu's breath caught. The elders spoke of such signs and whispers when the harpy calls thrice. The forest calls for its guardian. Leaves rustled behind him. His younger sister, Sira, emerged from the undergrowth, a basket of wild berries slung across her shoulder. Her dark hair was beaded with dew, her eyes wide with curiosity. "You heard it too," she said softly. He nodded. "It is a summons." Sarah shivered despite the warm air. "The spirits are restless." Grandmother dreamed of a black river swallowing the sun. Tahu glanced toward the distant sound of water. The dreams of elders were not to be dismissed. "Tell her I will speak with Shakara before the sun reaches the middle sky." The village of Yara lay hidden within a natural amphitheater of towering kapok trees. Huts of woven palm fronds formed a circle around the communal hearth, smoke rising in delicate ribbons. Children chased each other with painted faces, their laughter mixing with the rhythmic pounding of cassava roots. Yet beneath the ordinary bustle, Tahu sensed unease, as though the forest's heartbeat had quickened. Shakara, the shaman, sat near the fire. His skin was etched with patterns of red and black, lines that mapped both his body and the spirit world. Around his neck hung a necklace of jaguar teeth, which one earned through a vision quest. "Tahu," Shakara greeted without turning. His voice carried the weight of rivers. "The harpy came to you? How do you know?" "The forest told me while you still walked among shadows." He gestured for Tahu to sit. "The signs have been gathering for many moons." The Zapirapu stir. Tahu bowed his head. The Zapir Pushimmering spirits who danced on threads of light were protectors of the deep jungle. They revealed themselves only when danger threatened the balance between humans and the living forest. "Something approaches." Shakara continued. "I smell iron in the wind. The trees whisper of teeth that bite without hunger. Iron." Tahu frowned. Few outsiders ventured this deep. But rumors drifted along the rivers. Men who cut down ancient giants for profit. Who dug for yellow metal that cursed the water. Shakara's eyes gleamed like wet leaves. "Tonight, we will share the Yekawana. You must see what the spirits show you. Only then will the path be clear." When night fell, the village gathered beneath a sky littered with stars. The air pulsed with the beat of drums and the sharp scent of burning herbs. Shakara prepared the sacred snuff, grinding the bark of the Yekawana tree into a fine, shimmering powder. Tahu knelt before him, heart pounding. The shaman blew the powder into Tahu's nostrils with a long, hollow reed. Fire seared through his head, and the world dissolved. Colors erupted like molten rivers. Trees pulsed with inner light, their roots stretching into infinity. From the heart of the forest rose figures of silver mist, the Zaparopa dancing in spirals, their bodies flickering like candle flames. They sang in a language older than earth, a melody that was both warning and plea. He saw rivers choked with black sludge, He saw fire devour the canopy, smoke blotting out the sun. And above it all, the harpy eagles soared. Crying out until the sky cracked like broken glass, two gasped, collapsing to the ground. The vision lingered like an afterimage, a wound of light behind his eyes. Shakara's hand rested on his shoulder. "You have seen," the old man said. "The forest bleeds. You must follow the eagle's path. Beyond the Blackwater River lies the source of the wound." "The outsiders?" Tahu whispered. "Perhaps. Or something older. Go at first light. Take only what you need and remember, the forest is not yours to command. It will test you." Dawn approached once more, a thin silver line across the horizon. Tohu packed lightly a blowpipe, a pouch of Carrara-tipped darts, dried cassava, and a small carved talisman his grandmother had given him. Sira met him at the edge of the clearing, his eyes bright with fear and pride. "Bring back the eagle's answer," she said. "I will return," Tohu promised. Though the weight of his vision pressed heavy on his chest, as he slipped into the endless green. The forest closed around him like a living heartbeat. Somewhere ahead, the Blackwater River waited, dark and silent. And above, unseen yet ever present, the harpy eagle watched, its call echoing through the soul of the Amazon. The Blackwater River lay before Tahu like a sheet of obsidian, its surface unbroken except for slow-moving wisps of morning fog. The air smelled of wet bark and faint decay, the scent of life forever renewing itself. He dipped a paddle into the current and let his small dugout glide, soundlessly between the trees that rose from the water like patient giants. Every sound mattered. A splash might be an arapaima surfacing, or a caiman sliding off a log. The low croak of frogs merged with the hum of insects, creating a music only the forest understood. Tahu's muscles ached from hours of paddling, yet he felt the river carrying him as if it recognized his purpose. By midday, the light filtered through the canopy in gold shafts, revealing shapes that seemed alive. A jaguar's spotted flank vanishing in the undergrowth, a pair of scarlet macaws streaking across the sky like sudden fire. Tahu paused to drink from a bamboo tube, his eyes fixed on a swirl in the water ahead. A pink dolphin surfaced, sleek and smiling, then dipped again. Another followed, circling the canoe. The elders spoke of these dolphins as messengers between worlds, and Tohu whispered a greeting in his own tongue. The creatures responded with soft clicks and whistles. Weaving around him as if to guide the way, the river narrowed, funneling into a corridor of black water and arching vines. Here the air cooled and darkened. Shadows layered upon shadows until the forest felt like a vast cathedral. Tahu sensed he was crossing a threshold, leaving the realm of men and entering the domain of spirits. A sudden rustle behind him broke the hush. He turned to see nothing but swaying leaves. Yet the skin on his arms prickled, every hair alive. The Zepiaripu were near. He beached the canoe on a mud bank and stepped ashore. The ground was soft, carpeted with fallen petals that glowed faintly even in the gloom. A path of phosphorescent fungi lit a trail deeper into the jungle. Tahu followed, heart hammering. The air thickened with the sweet, dizzying scent of yekawana bark, the same fragrance that had filled his vision the night before. Light pulsed ahead, not from the sun, but from something unearthly. He pushed aside a curtain of vines and entered a clearing bathed in silver radiance. Figures danced in the glow, slender beings of mist and starlight, their bodies shimmering with colors that shifted like water. The Zepiaripu? Their eyes were pools of liquid moonlight, their movements a language of spirals and arcs. Taf dropped to his knees, overwhelmed. The spirits circled him, voices ringing like flutes carved from crystal. He could not understand the words, yet their meaning struck his heart like a drumbeat. The forest weeps. The balance falters. One spirit drifted closer, its outline wavering between a child and an ancient tree. It touched a finger of light to his forehead. Visions burst behind his eyes. He saw chainsaws bite into sacred trunks, rivers clouded with mercury from miners' greed, flames racing through dry leaves as animals fled in terror. Then the vision shifted. An immense serpent of smoke coiled across the sky, devouring stars. The spirit's voice cut through the roar. Guardian of breath, you must choose, silence or song. The forest will not wait. Tahu tried to speak but found only a whisper. What must I do? Seek the root of iron. Where men dig for sun metal, the world's vein is broken. Heal it, or the forest dies. The clearing darkened. One by one, the spirits dissolved into drifting sparks, until only the soft glow of fungi remained. The night air felt suddenly heavy and real. He stumbled back to the river's edge, as the first hints of dawn tinged the sky. The dolphins surfaced once more, watching him with solemn eyes. Show me. He murmured. They leapt in perfect unison, landing with a splash that sent ripples toward a narrow side channel. Without thinking, Tahu pushed the canoe after them. The dolphins glided ahead like pale ghosts, leading him deeper into territory no hunter of his people had dared for generations. Hours passed. The forest grew silent, except for the steady dip of his paddle. When at last the dolphins vanished into the dark, Tahu found himself before a stretch of riverbank, scarred by something unnatural. Trees lay uprooted, their trunks hacked and burned. The smell of oil and metal clung to the air. On the mud stood footprints broad, heavy, booted. Beside them, a broken piece of machinery gleamed dull silver in the weak light. He lifted it, feeling the cold bite of iron. The spirits had spoken true. Outsiders were here, tearing at the forest's heart. Tahu tightened his grip on the talisman his grandmother had given him. Somewhere beyond this scarred bank lay the miners, the root of iron, and the threat the Zapriapu had shown. He set his jaw and turned inland, ready to follow the path the spirits had laid before him. The forest closed behind him like a living gate, its whisper rising to a low, urgent chant. Protect us, or perish with us. The sky above the Amazon cracked open with a slow, bruised dawn, painting the mist a bruised violet. Tahu crouched on the riverbank, fingertips brushing the cold iron shard he had found the night before. Its unnatural chill lingered on his skin, a reminder that the Zaparipu's warning was real. He steadied his breath. Follow the root of iron. The spirit's words pulsed in his ears as steady as a heartbeat. Ahead stretched a narrow game trail, faint as smoke, threading into the forest's deepest folds. The jungle accepted him with a hush that was almost a challenge. Enormous kapok trees towered like cathedral columns, their roots rising taller than a man. Each step sank into a carpet of fallen leaves that smelled of rain and centuries. Dragonflies, their wings opalescent, hovered like fragments of shattered rainbows. Tahu moved as a hunter, moved silent, listening. He marked the direction of the wind, the warning calls of parrots high above. The ripple of something large sliding into a creek. Time slowed until hours passed unnoticed. A sudden rustling brought him to a crouch. From behind a curtain of hanging vines, two golden eyes stared back. A jaguar, muscles rippling beneath its spotted coat, padded into view. It paused, tail flicking, then lowered its great head in what seemed an almost regal nod among the Yanomami. The jaguar was a gatekeeper between worlds. Tahu lowered his blowpipe, sensing no threat. The animal circled him once, silent as thought, then slipped back into the foliage. Only a single paw print remained, perfectly formed in the damp, earth-pointing west, toward the setting sun. By midday, the forest darkened under heavy clouds. A distant roll of thunder warned of approaching rain. Tahu followed the jaguar's path until the air grew thick with a metallic temps that made his tongue ache. Ahead, a small clearing opened, and in its center gurgled a pool the color of midnight wine. The Blackwater Spring. Elders spoke of it in cautionary whispers, saying it marked a crossing place where spirits came to drink. He knelt beside the water. Its surface reflected not the canopy above, but shifting images, miners hacking at golden veins. Rivers turned to poison, the harpy eagles screaming against a burning sky. Then, just as suddenly, the vision changed, showing a cluster of crude shelters of tin and wood, smoke twisting upward. Human voices echoed faintly, distorted by distance, yet unmistakable. Tahu's heart thudded. He had found them. As he rose, the storm broke. Rain sheeted through the forest, drumming on leaves, soaking him in seconds. Lightning forked across the sky, illuminating the path like a fleeting torch. He pressed on, guided by both vision and instinct. Hours later, the rain softened to a drizzle. Through the dripping foliage came a different sound, the harsh clang of metal against stone. Tahu crept forward until he reached a ridge overlooking a raw wound in the jungle. Below, half-dozen strangers worked beneath sagging tarps. Their clothes were stained with mud, their hands slick with oil. Shovels bit into earth, while a generator coughed black smoke. Beside them, a sluice channel bled mercury-tainted water into the river. One man lifted his head, revealing pale skin and eyes the color of steel. He barked an order, and the others obeyed. Their movements quick and practiced. Tahu gripped the talisman at his neck, fury surging like the rising flood. The Zapi Ripu's prophecy unfolded before him, men of iron breaking the forest's vein. But he also remembered Shakara's words. The forest is not yours to command. It will test you. Revenge burned in his chest, yet a deeper calling urged patience. The spirits had not sent him merely to fight, but to understand, to protect. He retreated into the shadows, mind racing. He would need allies, perhaps the jaguar that guided him, perhaps other tribes hidden upriver. The struggle ahead was more than one man could face. Above the clearing, thunder rumbled again, low and ominous, as if the forest itself was gathering strength. Tahu melted back into the green darkness. The iron shard heavy in his pouch, and the Zapi Ripu's chant echoing in his soul. Guard the breath of the world. The time of silence is ending. The forest at night was a living heartbeat, steady, relentless, ancient. Tahu moved through it like a shadow, every sense sharpened by the memory of the miners' camp. He had watched them until darkness swallowed their fires, counting their numbers, marking their weapons. Rifles slung casually over shoulders. Machetes, flashing in the torchlight. He thought of Shakara's warning. The forest will test you. The test had begun. By dawn, the sky hung heavy with a dull copper glow. Tahu followed a tributary upstream, searching for signs of others who might help him. The Yanomami were not the only guardians of this vast green ocean. Stories spoke of neighboring tribes who watched strangers with silent vigilance. Near midday he found a cluster of broken palm leaves arranged in a spiral, an unmistakable signal. He knelt to study it, then felt a presence behind him. A spear tip glinted. "Who walks our trail?" A low voice demanded in Portuguese-accented Yanomami. Tahu rose slowly, palms open. 4 figures stepped from the trees, faces painted in red clay, bows drawn. Their leader, a broad-shouldered man with a necklace of carved bones, studied him with eyes as dark as river stones. "I am Tahu of Yara," he said evenly. "The Iron Men dig near the Blackwater River. The spirits sent me to warn you." The leader lowered his bow, but not his gaze. "We are Tucano. We have seen their smoke." A woman beside him, her hair braided with bright feathers, spoke sharply. "They poison the fish. Our children cough from their river." Tahu's pulse quickened. "Lies. Then we fight together." The Tucano leader introduced himself as Ru. "Fighting men with guns is death," he said, voice like stone. "But we will not let them take our forest. Tonight we meet near their camp. You will come." Twilight bled across the canopy when they reached a ridge overlooking the miners' operation. From this vantage, the wound in the jungle looked even worse. Trees felled in brutal swaths. Earth ripped open, a metallic stench rising with the smoke of their generator. Lanterns flickered like restless ghosts. The Tucano warriors crouched silently, arrows tipped with Karari. Tahu watched the men below, 6 in all. They laughed loudly over a meal of canned meat, rifles stacked against a rock. Ru whispered, "We strike their machines. No killing if possible. The forest must frighten them." Tahu nodded. Violence might bring more outsiders. Fear, however, could send these men fleeing. They waited until the moon slid behind a cloud. Then the forest moved. Shadows detached from trunks, slipping soundlessly downhill. Tahu felt the Zeparupu close around him like a cold mist. He reached the generator first. its metal skin vibrating like a furious insect. With a swift cut of his machete, the fuel line parted. Gasoline hissed onto the soil. Nearby, a Tucano warrior scattered resinous sap onto a burning torch, flinging it onto a heap of cut brush. Flames leapt high, sudden, and wild. A shout erupted from the camp. "Que diabos!" One miner cried, scrambling for his rifle. Before he could reach it, a shower of arrows thudded into the ground at his feet. Another torch whooshed to life, igniting the edge of a tarp. Panic spread faster than fire. The spirits. Another man shouted, eyes wide, "We must leave." Thunder cracked overhead as if the sky itself had spoken. Rain began to pour, heavy and warm. But the miners were already throwing tools into their boat, shoving off into the current with frantic strokes. Tohu stood beneath the downpour, chest heaving. Around him, the Tucano melted back into the trees, their task complete. The generator hissed and died. Smoke from the brush fire curled upward, dark offering to the stars. When the last echoes of the miners' retreat faded, Rue placed a hand on Tahu's shoulder. "Tonight, we frightened them. But others will come. They always come." Tahu met his gaze. "The spirits showed me a greater wound, more men, more machines. We need every tribe, every voice." The woman with feathered hair stepped closer, rain streaming down her face. "Then you will travel farther. Carry the warning. Call the forest together." Tahu nodded, feeling the weight of the talisman at his neck. The Zapiriapu's chant whispered through the storm, "Guard the breath of the world," as the Tucano faded into the dripping green. Tahu stared at the black river, where ripples from the miners' boats slowly disappeared. The fight had only begun, and the Amazon, vast, ancient, and alive, waited for its next guardian step. The storm gathered before sunrise, a slow growl in the far-off clouds. Tahu and the Tucano warriors moved through a forest heavy with the scent of wet earth and sap. Every trunk glistened, every leaf dripped silver beads. Yet beneath the hush of rain, Tahu felt a restless vibration like the breath of something vast preparing to speak. Rue led the way, his bow slung across his back, eyes sharp despite the dim light. "The miners will return," he said, voice low but certain. "They will bring more men, more guns." "They will," Tahu agreed. "The spirits showed me fires greater than these. We must call others before the forest bleeds dry." The woman with the feathered braid, Mira, gave a curt nod. "My kin downriver will listen. But we need proof of the wound." Tahu tapped the pouch at his chest where the iron shard rested. "We bring them this." They traveled for hours along twisting deer paths, the air thick with mist. At a shallow creek, they paused to drink. Tahu's thoughts wandered to the harpy eagle, the first messenger. He had not heard its cry since leaving Yara. Yet the memory of its piercing call lingered like an unhealed cut. As they moved on, the forest began to change. Birds fell silent. Even the constant buzz of insects thinned into uneasy stillness. "Something waits." Rue murmured. A sudden crack of gunfire split the air. Bark exploded from a nearby tree. Another shot followed, ricocheting off a root. Down. Mira hissed. They dropped into the undergrowth as three figures emerged from the foliage ahead. Miners, rifles raised. Rain streaked their faces. The smell of alcohol mingled with the tang of oil. One of them shouted in Portuguese, "You think you can scare us with fire? We'll show you fear." Rue's jaw tightened. The Tucano warriors moved like ghosts, spreading into a crescent. Tahu felt the weight of his blowpipe in his hand. He loaded a dart tipped with curare, heart hammering. A gun flashed. A Tucano warrior grunted and fell, clutching his arm. Blood darkened the leaves. The forest roared. It began with the wind, a sudden violent surge that bent the trees. Lightning clawed the sky. From the canopy came the guttural boom of howler monkeys, a thunderous chorus that made the gunman hesitate. Tu seized the moment. He inhaled, aimed, and released. The dart struck the nearest miner in the neck. The man staggered, eyes wide, then crumpled as the fast-acting poison took hold. Rue loosed an arrow. Mira, another. One rifle clattered to the ground. its owner fleeing into the storm. The last miner fired wildly, panic in every shot. Before retreating after his companion, rain hammered down, washing blood into the earth. When the forest quieted, Tahu knelt beside the wounded Tucano. The man's breath came quick, but steady. The bullet had grazed his shoulder. Mira bound the wound with strips of bark, her hands sure despite the rain. "The spirits fight with us," she said softly. Taff looked upward. The harpy eagles circled high, a dark silhouette against the storm-racked sky. Its cry cut through the downpour, three sharp notes that vibrated through bone and soil alike. Are you followed to whose gaze?" "An omen," he said. "The forest is speaking." The wind shifted, carrying a deep rumble from the west. Through the curtains of rain, Tahu saw the river swelling, dark and immense. Trees along the banks groaned as water climbed their trunks. "The flood," Tahu whispered. "The Zipirapu warned us." They moved quickly to higher ground, helping the injured warrior along a ridge. From there, they watched the Blackwater River rise, swallowing sandbanks and dragging whole logs downstream. The miners' camp visible in the distance. Dissolved under the onslaught, tents ripped away. Generator drowned in foaming current, lightning split the sky in a blinding flash. For a heartbeat, Tahu glimpsed figures of lights Zipirapu spirits dancing atop the floodwaters. Their forms both human and tree, flame and mist. Their song carried on the wind, a fierce, unbroken chant that wove with the eagle's cry. Rue bowed his head. The forest protects its own. But Tohu felt no triumph. The miners who fled would tell others. More would come hungrier, armed with greater machines. The battle was far from over. Myra touched his arm. "This is only the first storm." Tahu nodded, rain streaming down his face like tears. "Then we call every tribe, every voice. The forest must stand as one." He lifted his talisman, the carved token glowing faintly in the stormlight. Above, the harpy eagle screamed again, a sound both warning and promise. The forest answered with thunder. The floodwaters receded slowly, leaving the Amazon breathing a heavy mist. Trees dripped with silver dew, and the earth, scoured clean, smelled of rain and smoke. Tahu stood on the ridge with Rue and Myra, watching the river swirl below where the miners' camp had once been. The jungle looked unbroken again, yet the silence carried a question. What comes next? For 3 days, the Tucano warriors ferried messages by canoe, calling distant kin with carved flutes and smoke signals that curled into the humid sky. One by one, other tribes arrived to Nome from upriver, Baniwa from the north, Ashaninka drifting down hidden channels. Their canoes formed a living constellation across the black water, each one painted with symbols of jaguars, eagles, and ancestral stars. On the 4th evening, beneath a full moon, they gathered in a wide clearing, ringed with towering kapok trees. Torches flickered like 1,000 fireflies. Drums rumbled a heartbeat older than memory. Tahu stepped forward, the iron shard in his hand glinting in the moonlight. "This," said, lifting it high, "is what the outsiders bring. Iron that bites without hunger. Poison that kills the river." His voice carried in the hush. "The Zipirapu have shown me that more will come unless we stand together." Murmurs rippled through the gathering. An Ashaninka elder rose, feathers trembling in the night breeze. "Our rivers run red. We have seen their smoke. The spirits cry for unity." A Yanomami shaman from another village raised his staff. "Then let the forest speak through us. Tonight we bind our peoples as one breath." The ceremony began with a low chant, voices layering like waves. Resinous smoke rose from sacred fires, carrying the scent of yekawana and crushed cacao. Elders painted each warrior with spirals of black and crimson, symbols of the eternal cycle. Children beat small drums, the rhythm steady as a heart. Tahu knelt as Shakar, his own village shaman, who had traveled days to be here, stepped forward. "The spirits called you, my son," the old man said, eyes bright with moonlight. "Tonight you will answer." From a carved gourd, Shakara poured shimmering water gathered from the flood itself. He touched it to Tohu's forehead, then to his chest. "By the breath of the forest, By the strength of the river, do you vow to guard the life of this land?" "I vow," Tohu said, the word ringing clear. The assembled tribes echoed, their voices a living wind. "We vow." How the ground trembled soft, like a giant exhaling. From the canopy above came the deep, unmistakable cry of the harpy eagle. 3 resonant notes that vibrated through bone and soil. Light blossomed across the clearing, sudden and soft. The Zipirapu appeared not as a vision of smoke, but as shimmering figures visible to all. Their bodies glowed with the colors of dawn, emerald, gold, and deep river blue. Children gasped, elders bowed. One spirit, tall as a ceiba trunk, addressed the gathering in a voice like rushing water. "Guardians of the living world," it said, "you have chosen the path of unity. The forest breathes with you, but remember, the Iron Men will return. Your courage must flow like the river ever moving, never ending." As quickly as they came, the spirits dissolved into the moonlight, leaving only the gentle rustle of leaves. At the ceremony's end, Ru clasped Tohu's arm. "The pact is made," he said. "The forest stands through us." Mira added, "You are its voice now, Tahu. Where the outsiders cut, we will rise." Tahu looked to the sky. The harpy eagle circled high, its wings catching the moon's glow. Beneath that silver light, he felt the forest breathing through him, roots in his veins, wind in his lungs, the endless river in his heartbeat. The pact of the ancestors was sealed. Tomorrow, he would travel to distant villages, carrying the warning and the promise. Others would join. Together, they would defend the great green heart of the world. The jungle hummed, alive and endless, and Tahu understood at last. He was no longer merely a hunter. He was the forest's breath, and its song would never be silenced.